Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome. I'm World Dragon and we are looking at Age of Mythology Retold. Now this is, as you can guess, the remaking of the very original Age of Mythology game from over 20 years ago now. We are coming to the end of our look at the beta weekend. And so here is a quick rundown of how I think the game looks so far and what you can expect in full release. So, as you can see, we have 4 distinct races, each with 3 gods each. We've been unable to play the Atlanteans in this beta weekend, but we have been able to play the Greeks, Egyptians, and Norse. Now, these are all unique gods. They all come with their own original powers. And then as you advance through the ages, you get a choice of one of 2 minor gods, I suppose, if you're being kind of harsh. I mean, they're obviously not the big 3 that they've decided to give you as major gods, but you get to choose one of 2 minor gods, and you will get their bonuses and mythical units to play with as you advance. Now, these are slightly different. There's kind of 3 for each age between the guys, so depending on who you choose is depending on which options of minor gods you get, and this is the same for all of the races. Like I said, we haven't really been able to play with the Atlanteans, but we can see what their minor gods and powers and units are going to be. After that, for those of you that haven't played the original or possibly haven't seen any of the gameplay, the 3 races that we can play so far do play very, very differently, which is something that does make me very happy. Obviously, like I said, for those of you that played the original, you'll be expecting this, but for those of you that haven't played this game before and are wondering, is this going to be a worthwhile game to play? As I said, it is very, very different depending on which race you play, which makes me so happy because there really is kind of a sad aspect when a game releases all of these variants and yet it's just a new skin on the exact same mechanics. For example, the Greeks, I would say, are kind of what you'd expect from a strategy style game. Villagers go out and gather, you build your military buildings, they make your troops. Obviously there's the gods and the mythical element into the game, but it kind of plays as standard. Egyptians are a little bit different. For instance, their farms take gold to build as opposed to wood. Also, for them to generate favor, which is one of the 4 resources needed, there's no stone in Age of Mythology. You need to build statues. You don't worship at them, you simply build monuments. There's up to 5 monuments which you have to build in order, and these allow you to generate favor at a slow ticking rate. Now the Norse, these, in my opinion, out of the 3 we've seen so far for this, like I said, we haven't been able to play with the Atlanteans, and I'm not going to lie, I cannot remember if they were even in the original game, because I did play it, but this again was 20 plus years ago. My memory is not quite that good. But as I was saying, the Norse are definitely the most unique in terms of gameplay. They have 3 styles of villagers. They have a normal villager, a dwarf, and a berserker. The berserker is kind of a villager warrior hybrid, but it does actually build most of their buildings. Their villagers just gather, and they can build basics of houses and farms. And their dwarfs are the same, but they are aimed at being used for mining gold. To generate favor, they have to go and fight. They generate it whilst fighting and attacking. And they also don't have any resource gathering buildings, bar of course the town center. They build supply wagons, making them a very mobile gathering race, because you don't almost have to rebuild as you move along and then almost even stay in that location. If you go to a location and then you think, hang on a minute, this could get a bit dicey, you can just straight up leave and go somewhere else and then come back later. Which I know you can kind of do with the other ones, but it just feels a lot more mobile as the Norse. In terms of gameplay, it's everything you'd expect from an Age of something game. Also, again, for those of you that played the original, pretty much the same. As you can see, you've got 4 ages. You advance through them by spending a truckload of food and gold, and then you pick your minor deity and you get more access to more buildings, more units, more mythical units, and more god powers, which are of course used using favor. Now in terms of gameplay, we did attempt to push the game quite hard. I did a 12-person, very fast game on a very large map. And I basically I've got a pretty good computer. I'll put some of the specs down in the comments below. And it managed to keep going at 45 FPS, even when things got crazy. And this again is just the beta weekend. So I would hope and expect there to be a bit more optimization going forward. So I think it will run quite well. And then the only thing that is a mild letdown for most people that have really played the game, it depends on how much you care about this kind of stuff, is the voice acting, which I have seen come up a couple of times. Now, for me, I don't mind so much because my head kind of runs away when it comes to the stories, and I end up paying probably a little bit less attention to the voice acting. But I will say the cutscenes have been a little bit janky. It's one of the only things that have been a bit sideways in the beta for me. And they haven't really drawn me in, I will admit. Now, this isn't so much of a big thing, like I said, for myself, but for those of you out there that are calling for absolutely awesome voice acting of the original game, let's be honest, that's probably not really going to happen. It was done 22 years ago. The files are going to be so old and so low quality that they're probably not going to be able to use them for this game. So I wouldn't be holding your breath if that's your hope. However, for those of you where that's not so much of a thing, the game is looking really good. There's a few animation kind of things that need a bit of tweaking, but again, this is the beta weekend. I can't make that clear enough, so hopefully by full release, all of these are beautifully smoothed out. We will get to play with the Atlanteans. Now, of course, for those of you staring across, these are pretty much actually just the Titans, but Titans are something else in this game, so they are called the Atlanteans here, although I must admit, I'm not quite sure who Uranus is off the top of my head. Gaia and Kronos, I know who are. But yes, but that is going to be the next set of gods. And then there is planned DLC. The first one is planning to add some brand new Chinese deities. And the pack after that will add another set of deities, but I do not believe that has been announced quite yet. And so for all of you, those of you wondering whether you would like to play this game, if you like the Age of series, as in Age of Empires, or in fact the old Age of Mythology, I would very highly recommend this game. It is a lot of fun. Basically, Age of Empires, for those who haven't played Age of Mythology, it's just that with god powers and mythical units, so you can run around with things like, see if we go up here, we've got Cyclops, Minotaurs, Manticores, a Nemean Lion, a Giant Colossus, and a Chimera. So, there you go, and then of course you get to smite people with god powers as often as you can afford to get them, depending on how hard you pray. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a game where praying actually does pay off. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed potentially some of my other videos actually showing you some of the gameplay, and hopefully this review is useful to you. And so until next time, until we see you again, I hope that you can stay safe, happy, and healthy.